I am genuinely so excited you're joining us because today we're looking at a truly fascinating intersection of natural science, linguistics, and ancient scripture. To kick things off, did you know that spider silk is widely considered one of the absolute strongest natural materials on Earth? I mean, it is a complete marvel of evolutionary biology. But interestingly enough, this incredible scientific fact sets up a really intriguing puzzle when we look at certain historical and spiritual texts. So that brings us to a really fascinating paradox. You might be wondering, is there a contradiction here? Because if you study the Quran, there's a very specific, well-known verse that actually refers to the spider's house as the weakest of all houses. Wait a second. If modern science definitively proves that spider silk is this incredibly strong, hyper-resilient material, why on earth would an ancient scripture definitively call the spider's home the weakest? Are these two perspectives just completely at odds, or is there a deeper truth hidden within this paradox? Let's actually look at the exact wording for a second. Chapter 29, Surah Al-Ankabut, which literally translates to the spider, verse 41 states, "The example of those who take protectors other than Allah is like that of the spider who builds a house. And indeed, the weakest of houses is the house of the spider, if only they knew." This verse presents such a powerful, evocative parable. It frames this profound mystery that we're going to solve together today by breaking down both the science of the spider and the exact wording of the text. Okay, let's look at the science first. Spider silk isn't just strong, it is a literal structural masterpiece. Surprisingly, modern research has shown that some varieties of spider silk have a tensile strength that is completely comparable to industrial steel. Yet, unlike heavy, rigid steel, spider silk is incredibly lightweight and highly elastic. It can stretch significantly before snapping, which allows it to absorb massive amounts of kinetic energy. Because of these mind-blowing properties, scientists around the world aren't just looking at this stuff, they're actively trying to copy it. Researchers and engineers are so impressed by this natural fiber that they're studying it for some really cutting-edge applications in medicine, like artificial tendons and biodegradable sutures. They're also exploring it for engineering and advanced materials, hoping to create things like lighter, stronger body armor and innovative construction materials. It's a genuine biological superpower. Okay, so let's dive into this, because this brings us right back to that core paradox we started with. If the silk itself is a literal miracle of strength, if it literally rivals steel, why on earth does the text explicitly describe the spider's house as weak? To understand this, we have to look really, really closely at the actual words being used. And here's where the linguistic distinction becomes absolutely crucial. Notice what the Quran does not say. It never says the weakest thread or the weakest silk. The text is highly, highly specific. It says the weakest house. That exact phrasing identifies the dwelling itself, the web as a structure of shelter, not the raw material it's woven from. That slight linguistic difference changes absolutely everything about how we understand this verse. Think about it logically for a second. Strong threads do not automatically create a strong home. You could have the strongest, most indestructible bricks in the world, but if you stack them poorly and don't use any mortar, your house is still structurally weak, right? A dwelling requires so much more than just impressive building materials to provide true security, safety, and shelter. It has to actually function as a fortress against the outside world. But when you actually look at the spider's web as a shelter, it is incredibly fragile. A strong gust of wind, it easily damages it. A heavy burst of rain, completely destroyed in seconds. Larger animals, or even humans just walking by, can tear right through it without even noticing. As a defensive structure, it provides practically zero protection from harsh weather or predators. The physical web is entirely exposed and totally vulnerable. But the weakness of this house extends way beyond just its physical structure. Scientists have observed some highly unusual and frankly shocking social behaviors among certain spider species. One of those phenomena is sexual cannibalism. In many web-building species, the female spider may actually attack and consume the male immediately after mating. So the home is actually a site of lethal danger for the spider's own mate. And honestly, it gets even darker. Among some species, the young spiders, the offspring, might even attack or consume one another just to survive. Contemporary writers and scholars point out that this adds a whole new, chilling layer to the concept of the weakest house. The spider's household is biologically fractured. It represents profound weakness not just in a physical sense, but in its social and family structure. There's no warmth, no mutual protection, no safety, even from one's own family. Now, let's pivot for a second to another really fascinating detail from the original Arabic text. The Quran uses the phrase ittaqada baitan, which translates to she built a house. The verb used here is specifically feminine. For centuries, this might have just seemed like a grammatical quirk. But modern biology actually confirms that in many web-building spider species, it is exclusively the female who constructs, maintains, and lives in the web. The male is generally just a temporary and often very unfortunate visitor.
Now, while that linguistic detail is absolutely incredible, and it's certainly an amazing correspondence between an ancient text and modern biology, we do need to take a step back. The primary purpose of the Quran, much like many great spiritual texts, is profound moral guidance. It's not meant to be a biology textbook. These scientific alignments are super fascinating to discover, for sure, but they're really pointing toward a message that is much deeper and much more relevant to our daily lives and our spiritual well-being.
So, what does this all mean? The crucial point here is how classical scholars actually understood this. Scholars like Ibn Kathir and At-Tabari explain that this verse is essentially a really powerful parable about false reliance. The spider's web might look intricate, it might catch prey, and it might seem like a perfectly engineered home to the spider. But ultimately, it is an illusion of safety. The verse symbolizes the danger of putting our ultimate trust in temporary, weak things instead of relying on the divine. Let's bring this ancient wisdom into our lives today. Think about the worldly false reliances we build our own webs out of. People often place their absolute trust in their wealth or their bank accounts. Others trust in political power, their social status, or their connections to really influential people. We weave these intricate networks around ourselves, completely believing they're going to protect us from the harsh realities of life. But just like that spider's web when a sudden storm hits, when severe trials actually arrive in our lives, when a true crisis of health, profound loss, or deep hardship strikes, many of these worldly supports instantly collapse. They offer absolutely no real shelter. Your wealth can't cure every illness, your status cannot fix a broken heart. These supports often fail us exactly when we need them the most. So, the beautiful resolution to the paradox we started with is really this. The verse serves as a profound spiritual lesson about the illusion of worldly protection. From this perspective, every support besides the divine is ultimately fragile. It might look impressive from a distance, just like the tensile strength of spider silk under a microscope, but as a foundation for ultimate security, the text is telling us it's as vulnerable as a spider's web in the rain. The core message here is just completely timeless. The spider's house is physically and socially weak, and it serves as this perfect metaphor to teach that true strength, unwavering protection, and eternal security belong to the divine alone. The text imparts that when believers anchor their reliance there, they are building on a truly unshakable foundation that will sustain them through absolutely any storm. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Look closely at the structures you rely on for your own peace of mind. Based on this metaphor of the spider's web, what kind of house are you building your life upon? Are you weaving a web of temporary things or anchoring your trust in something truly permanent? Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible intersection of science and spirit. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you in the next one.